So with our handsome Mr. A, he has been doing a really nice job working some of his skills. So I know that on some of the things you'd like to touch base on, you had mentioned take it and drop it exercises, as well as leave it. So what I would like to do is we're going to work a little bit with maybe some take it and drop it in the sense of with items he's allowed to have. So in the beginning, a lot of times, remember that if your babe doesn't feel comfortable relinquishing things they can have, it's going to be much more difficult for him to understand or want to participate in letting go of things he shouldn't have. So a lot of times, if the babe already has something in their mouth, even if you would like to have that be a leave it item, if it's already in his mouth, it's going to be more a drop it, give, or out, because the item is already in his mouth and no longer on the floor off in the distance. So when working with Mr. A, right now we're just warming up with some of those typical find its, getting him in the groove, getting him cozy. His comfort range has gotten so much more. Even though his first day wasn't shabby, he was a little bit more nervous and a little bit unsure about the dynamic or the setup. Now he goes right into the groove and went right into feeling cozy in his bubble, and then practicing some of his items from home. So ready? Right there, we'll just do a little positive interrupter. So a great way to practice with your puppy or adult dog. And two, if though you're having resource guarding trouble, so that's where your dog might covet an item and they have a hard time relinquishing it because they start to get overwhelmed and they're showing, again, what we would consider aggression. So teeth bared, growling, freezing, and sort of becoming rigid. That could be the beginning stages of, again, your babe potentially doing some resource guarding, and that could build. So if you're having trouble with resource guarding, do check in. There's ways to go about practicing things so we don't start too hard, because the way we interact with our dogs either create more problems down the road or help relieve them or alleviate them. So with Mr. Handsome, let's say he might be practicing with several toys he's allowed to have. I would recommend to take a peek-see over the, what is it called? The toy exchange game. My brain melted today. So the toy exchange game I've done a few times with several different pups from the doggy day school. That would be where you take several of your dog's toys and chews or household items he's allowed to have that you've deemed dog toys, and you would be allowing him to play and interact with those items. While, let's say, he's playing with one of the toys, you would see if you could exchange for another toy within that same bubble. So if, let's say, he was playing with a tuggy toy, you might then show him your squeaky cow toy. He relinquishes the tuggy and then goes to play with the squeaky cow instead. So you're teaching your puppy that relinquishing or letting go is not the end of the game, but that also letting go has value because you could play again. You could then rotate to another chew or something he finds, again, delicious or fun. And then you could also start practicing that letting go could include more play. So you can also use food, obviously, to exchange from one item to another. And that would build up that there's benefits or value in letting go. If, again, we just want him to let go because we said so, it's not really an initiative for him to relinquish something he maybe finds very appealing or novel or fun to then somehow get it taken away and somehow that be better of a circumstance from his perspective. So let's say, for example, your pup, and I'm just going to see if I can grab a lovely little chew item. So I have this, bone here. So what I sometimes like to do is, let's say you could preemptively load a chew item. You could have his Kong. You could be working with something that you can load up with goodies. And then what you end up doing is, let's say as your puppy is enjoying their chew item, you could practice the treat and retreat game, which is where when he's got a chew or a lick item or something he finds delicious, you could make it fun to approach and then disengage. So what I mean by that is your puppy could be chewing or licking on something. You would then be off in the distance and you would approach, and I like to do it sort of from the side or an angle, and then I feed the puppy a couple snacks and walk on by. This could be really helpful for if your puppy sometimes is getting a little bit more overwhelmed with their dish or certain items are harder for them. But remember that this old concept of being able to finesse or sort of bother your pup throughout their food time is not a great idea. Because imagine if you were enjoying your meal or your moment to read a book or your moment to enjoy something and someone comes over and bombards you while you're mid doing it. Even if they're nice about it, are you going to enjoy the interruption? So again, here I would feed and then retreat again. So I'm making it where every time I pass by the handsome guy or I'm nearby, it became even cooler than it once was. So imagine you were, again, having your favorite meal and some of the wait staff come over and they take your plate, give it back, take your plate, give it back. You're gonna get rather upset. And especially if you're rather hangry, you could probably get really grumpy and poke them with your spoon, fork, or knife. So obviously for our dogs, when they have a resource, they don't understand that you might be taking away because they have to go to the restroom, or you need to take a break because they have to go to bed, or whatever it might be. So from your puppy's perspective, when we come by, we tend to be the end of the game or the bringer of not such a fun adventure. So I know with puppies, we tend to be, don't eat the mulch, don't eat the acorns, don't eat the bunny poop, all those different things. So we tend to be the ones that are always taking things from them. And then by accident, by doing it in that manner, your puppies might start to gulp. So they see something, they go to grab it, you get, oh my gosh, and you run to go rush at them, and they go and try to swallow the item so you can't take it away. They could also do the usual keep away game, almost like the gingerbread man, you'll never catch me now. And then they tend to try and romp away with the item, but when you get closer, then it can create conflict again. So remember, what you're trying to do is create this concept that when you come near, it's non-threatening. When you do practice exchanging of items, it's been comfortable, fun, and reinforcing. So that way, as your puppy matures, they don't feel uncomfortable when you come near and maybe have to exchange for something. So let's say, for example, like right now, he could care less about his chew because he got most of the goodies out of it. But let's say I reload it, and let's say my puppy is still working on this chew, and I did some of those treat and retreat exercises. Then from here, what you'd want to do is, let's say he's mid-chew enjoying the thing, we'd want to go from here to then going and seeing if we can get a lovely little find it and get him to get up, and the item doesn't get stolen from him and taken away right now. We'd want to let him go back to his prize and then practice that moving away from, let's say, a high value item or chew or whatever he might be working on is not spooky or the end of the game. So let's say, again, he's enjoying his item. You could do a few treat and retreats, ready? But then you can also work a couple find its where you're practicing helping him move from something of value. And this could be later something he's not supposed to have. So if right now he doesn't know what drop it, give, or out might be, and he doesn't quite understand what a leave it might be yet, the best bet is if he grabs for something he shouldn't, go right to your treat station, have maybe your snacks nearby. I normally highly recommend for puppies or new adopted dogs, have a few treat stations, which could be Tupperware containers with kibble mixed with other training treats, things that he finds really appealing mixed together. And now your kibble starts to smell like those treats. Then what you can end up doing is, let's say there's moments where he's done something amazing, you can capture those behaviors or those skills and feed into them. So I know we mentioned this earlier, is think about each behavior or skill or even cue as having a bank account. So how many deposits have we put into that account to have it happen again? So for Mr. Handsome here, let's say we wanted to take away his bone, you could do a few of these find its back and forth, and then that way, when he's off and busy doing his scavenger hunt, you could take the item, move it out of range, and now you could put it away for another day and save it for a time that you'd like to give him more chew options later. We will dive into leave-its as well with him in just a little bit, but I would highly recommend make it where sometimes throughout his nice job, sir, is make it throughout sometimes toys and play items he's allowed to have, that exchange between different items that he is, again, acceptable chews or toys to play with. But using those find its as your, oh no, go-to dance move in the beginning can be very helpful. So I know Mr. Handsome really loved the flirt pole. So the flirt pole is another great option for a lot of beauties. So this would consist of having a toy at one end and this lovely pole, and then he can go ahead and chase and grab and bite and shake and do all these lovely doggy behaviors onto an appropriate outlet. So, and of course, Miss K is like, I would really like to have someone throw my ball. So when our handsome man is working some of this, remember that if your puppy has a hard time with excitement or over-arousal, typical adolescent troubles, is that a lot of times using play as a way to rev the engine and then put the brakes on can be immensely helpful. So you'll see I keep the toy nice and low so he's not able to go and jump up high and potentially hurt himself. So I want to keep it low enough where he can reach the toy and grab it. Nice job. Then when he goes to grab for the toy, I might go, ready, find it, and get him to let go. I don't instantly pull the toy out of range. I don't make it come alive yet. If he wants to go check it out and smell it again, no big deal. What I want him to start realizing is sometimes when we rev the engine, we can still learn how to put the brakes on. We don't have to shut off the car. We can also sometimes put it again into park for a moment, and then we could start up again once more. What a lot of folks do with puppies is they go, go, go to the point where then the puppy is out of fuel. And then by that point, you've already been dealing with probably other behaviors you weren't a huge fan of. And then your puppy might be getting into the rhythm of thinking that's the only way to expend energy. So playing with a flirt pole, though, there are some good safety rules. So you want to have really nice traction. Miss T says, I would like to wrestle. So you want to have traction, which would consist of maybe dirt, grass. If you're working this in the house, I don't normally recommend it because you need some space. But typically tile, hardwood, and flooring like that is very slippery. And you could potentially set up yourselves for some injuries for the pups. Fetch, again, I'm not against fetch, but I'd be careful as to how intense and to what level of fetch you're doing. For a lot of puppies, they excuse me, they know how to go, 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 but they don't always know how to slow down and be careful with their bodies. So, of course, now I have a tickle. I'm so sorry about coughing into the mic. He's like, how dare you cough? Nice catch. So, but the benefit of this game is you could start to work that on-off switch where he goes and he can get excited. And then you could go from here, you could go ready, right into that little kissy noise, right into a couple little find its. And eventually this would be drop it, give, out. And I might have to grab a little bit of water real quick. Sorry, Mr. A. So 1 second, then we'll keep going on this concept. I'm just going to grab my water. Don't mind me with my leaping abilities here. So I just got to grab my drink. I feel like the darn dry room. Sorry about the interruption. There we go. So with Mr. A, obviously flirt poles, there's all different types. This one, for example, has a bungee. So it has some give. So when your puppy grabs it and they all of a sudden pull on it, there's a little bit of wiggle room. For some of them, they're just a rope, which is fine. But I find with the rope ones, sometimes if they're very wiggly and you go to grab for it, when they grab it, there's no give to it. So sometimes it's almost like they come to the end and you get jostled too. So it's not a tuggy toy. So this is not meant for him to yank and pull and then let go. Because you can find out the hard way if you're holding it and you want to have the handle on. So if your puppy does happen to pull on it, you don't let go of the pole and bonk them. But also, if let's say they were holding on to the end of the toy, which is like the attachment, which this one is a sheepskin attachment for the flirt pole. So if let's say they were to grab this one and then quickly let go while you were pulling, it's going to ricochet and bonk you in the face. So I would recommend keep it low. If the puppy were to start tugging, I like to put the pole to the floor like this, step on the rope. So even if he starts tugging and he lets go, it's going to just go back and forth on the ground and not hit you in the face or your legs. So right now, he's doing a really nice job doing some play. But let's say I want to get him to drop it. You could also get your snacks ready. And you could go, ready, drop it. Yes. And feed for the let go. So you can do this with a tuggy toy. You can also transfer like this. One of my boys loves the sheepskin. So we use a shorter version, so like a handheld one. And I use that to create focus on me from the environment. And then we play. So as opposed to always doing food, we could do play. And you'll see that I keep nice swooshing low motions. So it's not too hard for Mr. Handsome. I do want to make sure he's allowed to catch the critter. Because if it's always go, go, and you never catch it, that's really frustrating. We might lose this wonderful toy drive, or you might get so much frustration that he doesn't want to participate. So I'd definitely make it easy for him to be successful and have a good time. So right here we might go ready, drop. Yes. Smart man. So, but dog-centric play, like with a flirt pole, is definitely one of my favorite options. Remember though, if your puppy, oh, he dropped his snack, it fell out of his face. But remember if your there it goes again. If your puppy has never really worked with a flirt pole, I would not rock it for too long. So it's almost like going to the gym for the first time in a long time. You don't want to go too hard. Two, because he's a puppy and he's still developing, I would maybe only do 5-10 minutes tops, but I would see how well is he doing with the game. If you find he's mostly biting and not really doing so well with letting go, or he's running to the point where he's overwhelming himself physically, then that's where I'd be like, you know what, maybe we'll shorten it up. We'll do a few other little things in between and then get back to the play. Ready? Nice job. So again, I'm just going to release. When he releases, I'm feeding for that dropping. So every time, even if I don't get to say the word drop or give or out, he's still being reinforced for the let go. So we might go again. Ready? Drop. Yes. So if, again, you're working leave-its, which we'll dive into, leave-its would be always for off-limit items. I don't apply leave-its to things he's going to be allowed to play with, even if it's later down the road. Because if I end up saying leave it to something he's allowed to play with, which we'll dive into, he's going to get confused. Why is it one time okay to play with and now it's not okay? And we'll get into how we can really help them through some of those leave-its in just a bit. So, but for Mr. Handsome, nice job. For his take it and drop it, play is an obviously great way to practice. The toy exchange game would be really helpful too. And make it where when you come near, good things happen, not that you're the end of the game. He has to go tank up on some water because there was a lot of good running. But if, again, any questions arise on some of the materials, always feel free that you guys can check in, either of the puppers, from the doggy day school. And then that way we can make sure that what you're working on is comfortable for both you and for him. But he did a really good job with those take it and drop its and some of those exchanges. So we'll give him a little breather and we'll do a few other things.